All right, here we go. Jeopardy. Minus the 80s music. Okay, so here's how it's going to work. I'm going to show you guys each one of the numbers. So the 200 means there's 2 questions in there. The 300 means there's 3 questions. The 500 means there's 5 questions. I can't wait until everybody finds like all 5 questions because we're never going to finish it. But if you know what one of the 2 is, or if you know that 2 of the 3 are, or if you know that 3 out of the 5 are, then you will raise your hand. Okay. And as soon as a good number of people have their hand up, then I'll know we can go on to the next one. Obviously, if nobody's raising their hand, that means nobody knows the answer to any of these questions. I'm going to need you guys to participate that way so I know when I can go on to the next question. Okay. Otherwise, it's just going to be a lot of wasted time. Here we go. During which stage of the demographic transition does a population experience a rapid increase in growth? What is the 3rd most populous country in the world behind China and India? Extra credit. So there are 3 questions on this one. What is the approximate population of this country now? Hint, hint, wink, wink. You kind of should know that. So again, hand up once you know 1, maybe 2 of these questions. I apologize for those that are watching the video later because to see your hands, I'm going to have to cover some of the answers for some of the questions. I got a couple people with their hands up. So what we're going to do is we'll do all the chapter 4 stuff first, then all the chapter 5 stuff. So get all your chapter 4 stuff that you have access to. I got 3 hands. Okay, and I'm going to have to keep a timer running so I know that we're not going to run out of time. Okay, so 15. How many minutes do we have? We have 30, 40. 40 divided by 15. It's about 2.5. Okay. All right, a couple more seconds. And if I'm not seeing a lot of hands up, I'm just going to give you guys how much time I think it would take to access your instant recall or to look a few things up. But again, I can't give enough time for everybody to look everything up because then we'll never get through all of the questions. Couple more. All right. By the way, the questions that are found within this Jeopardy represent probably about 90% of the questions that are on the test. Okay. Always remember when you take the test, don't forget about your warm-up questions because sometimes questions that I use for warm-ups end up on the test. Okay. So you're going to want your reading notes. You're going to want your class notes. You're going to want your warm-ups. Remember, the warm-ups only back to when we started talking about Chapter 5, and honestly, I don't remember what was in Chapter 5. And then you're going to want your study guide. Those are the biggest resources for you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we go with the answers. Okay, stage 2, which is where the death rate decreases. The United States is the 3rd most populous nation. And we're somewhere in between about 325 and 330. Or at least that's what I have in the book. It might be a little different than that, but we're somewhere, in the 325, 350 range. Okay. All right, more chapter 4 stuff. If a country has a growth rate of 4.5%, what is its doubling time? If a population of 1.5 million has 3,200 births, 2,000 immigrants, 1,500 deaths, 1,000 immigrants, remember immigrant means leaving, what is the annual percentage growth rate? Show your work. Okay, obviously you're not going to be showing me your work, but you're going to want to know how to do it. True or false? The following series of numbers shows exponential growth. All right, again, hand up once you know 2 of the 3 answers, or you're pretty sure you know 2 of the 3 answers. I will be right back. All right, I'm back, obviously. One more minute. So if you think you know the answer to 2 of the 3 questions, put your hand up. Okay, some of you guys are getting there. All right, here we go. Hands down, please. Oh boy. Okay, this got blocked. Okay, so rule of rules doubling time. Okay, so we get 15.5 years. New minus old divided by old times 100, so we get a 0.18%. I'm going to make a modification. This actually is not exponential. I did a little bit of research. I changed the format of the test question. Basically, it's like 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 16 is, I think, 256. And yeah, so that would be exponential. This is just simply multiplying things by 2, and that is not exponential. Okay, so this should be false. Okay, all right, here we go. 5 questions for you. Improved medical care and sanitation are directly responsible for the blank of the human population over the past 100 years. Does that sound familiar? If an average human needs about 2,000 calories per day to survive, how many total daily calories does the world need? Boy, I hope your calculator's got room for a lot of zeros. Sketch an age structure diagram for a rapid population growth. Okay, so that's in the chapter 4 class notes, assuming you drew those. Sketch 1 for a slow population growth, which would give you a negative, maybe. What type of survivorship curve, 1, 2, or 3, is particularly vulnerable to changes in the environment? Meaning, if the environment is changing like it is, that organism would have a really hard time surviving and potentially even could become extinct. So survivorship curve 1, 2, or 3. And again, hand up when you think you know about 3 of those, not necessarily 5. And I misspoke earlier. 90% of the questions on the test are represented in this game, but the questions are not what you will see on the test. If you know the answer to the question in Jeopardy, then you probably should know the answer to the question on the test. It's not the same questions. It's the same content. It's the same idea. It's the same logic. If you understand what I mean. Okay, about 1 more minute. And remember, these questions are harder than the test. The test is multiple choice. All you have to do is recognize the answer on the test. So if you know the answer to a good number of these questions, logic would say you should do well on the test. Remember, you do get your resources, but you're only going to get about 1.5 minutes per question. So you won't have time to look everything up. You'll have time to look a few things up. And some of you guys are going to study so well, and you've been paying attention so well, and you're doing all the work that I'm asking you to do, that your resources really aren't going to help you out a whole lot because you already know the answer to the questions. All right, about 20 seconds. Again, hand up if you know many of these questions. Not necessarily all, but many. All right, a lot of the same people with their hand up. Good. You had time to prepare a little bit. All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, here we go with the answers. Okay, so let's see. You're going to have a growth or you're going to have an increase in the human population. 7.7, that was approximately what it was when the information I used for this question times 2,000 calories, about 15.5 trillion calories needed per day. Let's see, rapid growth, remember, looks like a pyramid. India, okay. Slow growth actually should be kind of an upside down pyramid, okay, or definitely not wide on the bottom. I don't remember exactly what the diagrams look like on the test, but as long as it's thin on the bottom, that's going to be slower growth. And a type 1 survivorship curve. These are organisms that don't have a whole lot of offspring, and therefore, if it's difficult for the mother and the father to survive and they don't produce a whole lot of offspring, they're going to struggle with environmental change. Organisms that produce a lot of offspring typically don't put as much energy into caring for those offspring. Those will have a better shot at surviving because they're just simply 1,000 offspring that, maybe you'll get 10 or 15 or 20 or 100 that survive versus 2 offspring. You might get lucky and have 1 or maybe even 0 survive. Okay, so remember that type 1 survivorship curve. Okay, here we go. On to chapter 5, ecosystems. In a closed system with constant mass, energy is not created nor destroyed, only changed. What does this describe? Blank can be solar energy converted to chemical energy. It can be derived from living or recently living things, and energy available for trophic levels. Again, hand up when you know both of these answers, or you think you know both of these answers. About 20 more seconds, guys. Okay, here we go. Okay, first law of thermodynamics. Okay, that is what this is a description of. And biomass can be solar energy converted to chemical energy derived from living or recently living things, and it can be energy available for trophic levels. Okay, here we go. 3 questions. Draw a 4 trophic level food chain that could be found in a tundra ecosystem. There's 3 things that a generalist omnivore, that's an organism that can eat both plants and animals, might eat in an ecosystem. And the second law of thermodynamics explains that blank of energy is transferred from one trophic level to the next. I'll give you guys a clue. This is a number with a unit. Okay. Hand up if you know 2 of these 3 answers, you think. And remember, for those of you that maybe haven't prepared a whole lot yet, I get it. I mean, it's the middle of the week. You've got a lot of stuff going on in your other classes. You at least should be trying to find some of these answers in your notes, because that's actually, if assuming you do find some of it, can help you remember it, okay? Rather than just sitting there and playing on your phone or doing what you're doing, waiting for the answer. I mean, at least use this time to try to look up some answers, because this is going to save time when you're actually preparing for the test. Okay. Okay, about 10 seconds. Okay, here we go. Okay, so various answers. You have an example. I don't know if you remember where that example is. But an omnivore, they're going to eat plants. So, that's the herbivore part of them. Some insects, animals. A generalist, it doesn't matter what they eat. They find whatever they can get some calories from. Okay. And these are organisms that maybe have to struggle a little bit to find food, or they live in environments that don't have a whole lot of animals for them to hunt. Okay. And then 10%, remember 10%, 90% is lost as metabolic heat to the atmosphere. Okay, here we go. If a blank were to fill up with organic and inorganic matter, it would likely turn into a meadow through early succession. An organism that only eats plants is called what? A species that is important and essential to numerous other species is an example of a blank blank. In an area, herbivores eat plants. They are eaten by predators. Remains are eaten by scavengers. The presence of all these organisms describe which ecological term? And if you guys actually have a question versus just showing me that you know the answer to a couple answers, just simply unmute yourself. But if you're just showing me that you know some of these, or many of them, leave your hand up. Okay, about 40 seconds. All right, cool. Okay, here we go, folks. All right, if a lake were to fill up with organic and inorganic matter, it would likely turn into a meadow through early succession. Herbivores eat plants. Keystone species are important species. If you remove them, then many other species might be harmed or affected. And a community is defined as numerous populations of different types of organisms living in the same area at the same time. So give yourself a pat on the back if you got some of those right. All right, on to the BGC cycles. Okay, what process produces both carbon dioxide and water vapor? True or false? Humans interfere with the water cycle with transpiration, allowing water vapor to enter the atmosphere. Again, hand up if you know one or both of these. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Here we go. All right, so cell respiration produces water vapor and carbon dioxide every time you exhale. You knew that you were exhaling this, but if you exhale onto a flat surface, like glasses, that's water vapor. Okay. And false, humans are not involved with transpiration. Transpiration is evaporation from any surface of a plant. So we are not involved with transpiration at all. All right, here we go. Blank rocks are created by heat and pressure. Blank rocks are created by particles being cemented together, while blank rocks are created by melting and cooling. Plate tectonics describes the movement of sections of the Earth's blank sphere. Long-term storage of phosphorus and sulfur are found in what form? I'm talking solid, liquid, gas. If you can be specific, be specific. Again, hand up when you know at least two of these. Seeing lots of the same hands. You guys are gonna, you feel comfortable now. Just wait until Monday morning. Okay, about 10 seconds. Here we go. The answers. Metamorphic rocks are created by heat and pressure to change metamorphose, and heat and pressure changes rocks. Sedimentary rocks are cemented together. They cement particles, which are called sediments, and igneous, ignite, fire, melted. Okay. The lithosphere, which is a fancy word for the crust on the Earth, plate tectonics describes the movements of plates in the lithosphere, and solids, rocks, sulfur, and phosphorus are found in there, and that's why phosphorus it gets stored for millions, billions of years sometimes in rocks that are on the bottom of the ocean. Here we go. Sedimentary rocks would contain a great amount of blank because they are not exposed to great amounts of heat, pressure, or meltings. The input of solar energy drives which part of the water or hydrologic cycle? Increased deforestation will lead to an increase in what atmospheric gas? Think about the carbon cycle. Ocean acidification, decrease in ocean's pH, would lead to a decrease in blank because it is more difficult for them to form their exoskeletons. All right, so 4 questions. If you think you know 3 of them, hand up. That's not going to work.
What?
Him scratching on the door.
Hold on, I'll get him. I don't have any more hands.
Okay, about 30 seconds. Hand up if you think you know a couple of them. All right, here we go. Okay, sedimentary rocks are what we find fossils in. Matter of fact, there are some important fossils, especially within our human lineage, assuming you believe in evolution, that might never be found simply because some of those rocks get destroyed by melting or by metamorphosis. Evaporation. Sun helps heat liquid water, which allows for evaporation. Carbon dioxide. So it's kind of a double whammy when you cut down a tree because trees remove carbon dioxide. All right. So you reduce the ability for trees to take CO2 out of the atmosphere. And then also, usually you're burning a lot of vegetation to get those trees out of the way. And that creates a ton of CO2. It's a real double whammy. And corals, 50% of the Earth's coral reefs have been lost to ocean acidification, I think, in the last 30 years. We're watching Before the Flood right now in my biology class. And that is startling because coral reefs are really kind of like the rainforests of the oceans and habitat for fish. And there are millions of people that rely on fish that can no longer be found near coral reefs because the coral reefs are dead. Tragic. Okay, moving on. Okay, the consumption of blank by bats and the control of blank provided by forests in Central America are examples of ecosystem services. True or false? Ecological benefits of wildlife include pollination, matter cycling, pest control, and ecosystem homeostasis. Hand up if you think you know at least one of these questions. We got to pick up the pace a little bit, folks. We still got 10 slides to do, and we only have 10 minutes. All right, here we go. All right, consumption of mosquitoes by bats, control of flooding provided by forests. That's because they keep the soil together, the roots keep the soil together. And true, these are all ecological benefits of wildlife. Okay, a blank is the land area that delivers recharge to a smaller tributary streams that flow into larger rivers. Trenches are formed from which type of plate boundary? Pollination, water purification, nitrogen fixation, and soil formation are all types of blank blanks. Okay, about 30 seconds. Okay, about 10 seconds. All right, here we go. It's called a watershed. Okay, so we live in the American River watershed. Sacramento, it's the American River and the Sacramento River watershed. Convergent boundaries. Remember, plate gets shoved down, subducted under the other one, and it kind of pulls down on that other plate and it creates a deep spot. That's a trench. These are all ecosystem services, and we are losing ecosystem services frequently with climate change, unfortunately, and they save the world trillions of dollars. Which element cycling through the ecosystem is mostly controlled by microscopic bacteria? Forests and oceans are referred to as carbon blanks. Increasing the yield of farmland by using more fertilizer, better irrigation, and faster growing crops is referred to as the blank blank. When did this practice begin, approximately? Whoa. Sorry. Hold on. Yeah. Sorry. My bad. Let's go back. Okay. I'm going to give you guys a little time to think about that before I show you the answer. Whoops. All right, hand up when you know 2 or 3 of these, or all of them. All right, about 10 seconds. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, nitrogen, microscopic bacteria. All right, carbon sinks, carbon reservoirs, oceans, and forests. The green revolution is when we started the ability to be able to produce tons of food, and that started back in the 60s. All right, here we go. Last one, chapter 8. Building a new highway in a forest separates an insect species. Over time, they can no longer interbreed and evolve into two distinct species. What mechanism is responsible for this speciation? True or false? Extinction of honeybees would be devastating for life on Earth. Hand up if you know at least one of these. Okay, about 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, here we go. It's called geographic isolation. There are many forms of it. Could be an ocean, could be a creek if we're talking about an insect that can't fly. But their genes are separated geographically, and then they can evolve on their own. True, if honeybees, if bees, pollinators in general disappear, we are in a lot of trouble. They save us a lot of money. All right, here we go. Onward. Almost out of time, guys. The blank was accidentally introduced into the Great Lakes and became a very bad invasive species. Blank is the change of the genetic composition of a population over many generations. Which geographic region and altitude on Earth would you likely find the greatest degree of biodiversity? Hand up if you know at least two of these. You should know at least two of these because two of these were warm-up questions. All right, about 15 seconds. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, the zebra mussel, the Great Lakes, evolution, and low altitude, meaning, in valleys, etc., near the equator, where we're going to find a lot of rainforests. Last set of questions, folks. Blank is defined as the number of species and the number of individuals of each species in an area. Which type of selection did the peppered moths undergo during the Industrial Revolution? You guys just saw that in a warm-up today. Hint, the population slowly changed from mostly light to mostly dark. What is the biggest reason for species becoming endangered and extinct due to human action? Hand up if you think you know at least two of these three questions, and I see a lot of the same hands, which means that we have some very confident students, and I like confidence because it means you have prepared. Little of it might have to do with, what I am giving you guys to prepare with. Take a little bit of credit, but most of the credit is your guys' hard work. All right, I need to get you guys out of here on time, about 15 seconds. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, here we go. Species diversity, okay? Directional selection and habitat loss and fragmentation. Okay, hand up if you're feeling pretty confident, especially knowing you still have 3 days to prepare, pretty confident about the coming test. Hand up, you're feeling pretty good. Remember, there's very little homework that I'm going to be giving you. I mean, obviously other teachers can give you stuff, so that's good. seeing at least half of the class is feeling pretty comfortable with this stuff. Okay. You will have some population calculations on the test, but they're the simple ones. Okay. You're not going to need like the exponential function or anything like that. Okay. So as long as you know how to do the simpler equations, practice makes perfect. You'll do just fine. And there's probably one of those on the study guide as well. All right, ladies and gentlemen, have a great weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy. Let me know if you have any questions over the weekend. I will be checking my email. We'll see you guys later.
Hey, Mr. Paulus.